Think you're pretty good behind the wheel? Ever thought about becoming a private chauffeur? Well, we can say in this career, you're in for quite a ride. And you can expect a bit more than just driving when you embark down this path. And the wealthier the client, the more you have to, shall we say, put up with. Being a billionaire's driver means long hours and long commutes, but it also means you get a glimpse into the private and sometimes debaucherous lives of the 1%. Today we look at what it's like being a billionaire's private driver. We'll let you decide if you think all the extra responsibilities are worth it. So, just how does someone become a private driver? Well, it's pretty simple actually. As long as you hold a high school diploma, or the equivalent of one, have a valid driver's license, and have a clean driving record, you're eligible to pick up the keys and start driving the wealthy around. Now, we will say if you really want to up your chances of getting a job, you could obtain a chauffeur's license. All you need to do is head over to your nearest Secretary of State office, pass the written chauffeur knowledge test, which usually consists of 20 to 50 questions depending on the state, and pay the $35 license fee. After that, you're in the clear. You're ready to start driving professionally. And here's what you can expect to make. The average salary for a professional chauffeur is around $32,000, but the more exclusive the client, the higher that number goes. Reports say that billionaires' drivers make anywhere between $75,000 to $90,000 a year in the United States. Hey, that ain't too bad. Chauffeurs in London make between £35,000 and £60,000. But these numbers don't include the bonuses drivers get for their commitment, their longevity as a client's personal driver, and loyalty. Speaking of loyalty, oh boy, that's where things can get a little, interesting when working as a private driver. Yes, interesting. That's the word we're looking for. See, the world of privately driving around the multi-millionaires and billionaires of the world comes with many responsibilities that are oh so much more than just turning the keys and stepping on the gas. Here's a look at the standard duties and the not-so-standard duties. As a driver, you can expect to pick up your clients from their desired locations, assist them in entering and exiting the vehicle, loading and unloading luggage, driving your client to their destination, finding the quickest and safest routes of travel, keeping the vehicle clean, maintaining the vehicle, and keeping a record of the car's expenses. The duties you might not have expected as a personal driver include keeping your mouth shut when the client has a bit too much to drink and messes up the back seat of the car, cleaning up said mess in the back seat of the car, turning a blind eye to the illegal activities that your client may be participating in, being asked to get hard-to-find items in the middle of the night, working 12 hours a day, and sometimes even working 60-hour weeks. To quote Jane Larson, a professional chauffeur to an unnamed Saudi princess and her family, children, entourage, and staff, within a few days of not eating, not sleeping, of chaos, of the complete contradiction of orders on a minute-by-minute basis, I just realized the goal here is to survive. The royal family and the upper echelon of the staff liked to keep chaos around them to keep you on your toes, and the servants were happy to let you do stuff that they would otherwise have been asked to do by the family. Larson was even asked to pick up one of the princess's friends from getting plastic surgery, tasked to wait hours outside the facility for the client, and then, when the woman fainted on her way to the car, she had to ask for help from nearby valets to get the woman into the car. In this case, Larson truly got the short end of the stick. See, most drivers put up with strange and eccentric tasks because they are expecting a healthy tip after the job is completed. Larson worked for 7 weeks driving this royal family and her friends around and received $1,000. But it's not uncommon for other 1%ers to forego a tip for their drivers altogether. Gerald Wunstall, another billionaire's driver, has chronicled his experiences driving the elite and said, "You have to be at the office 4 hours before because you don't know when they are touching down in their private plane, and you don't get paid extra. And you know, some celebrities do not tip." The more experience I got, the more I realized I just like to drive regular people, such as boring lawyers or real estate guys. You go from one meeting to another and work 10 hours in a stretch, and you get paid. Manny Crowley, a professional chauffeur for EG Chauffeurs, a company that specializes in driving around royalty, claims a typical day on the job starts at 2 p.m. in London. Then it's off to New Bond Street and Harrods so the client can shop for up to 3 hours in each location. Next, it's off to a Mayfair restaurant with a final stop at a shisha bar on the Edgware Road until around midnight. Luckily, he claims that sometimes he'll receive a 500-pound tip from clients. Sounds like he's one of the lucky ones. Which brings us to the pluses of professional driving. After all, there must be some perks, right? Well, yes, there are. For one, you get to be around some of the most wealthy and famous people in the world, and in many cases, get to know them on a first-name basis. One still says he has driven for the likes of Bill Murray, worth $180 million, George Clooney, worth $500 million, and Eminem, worth $230 million. You can even be invited to some of the most lavish parties hosted by the elite of the elite. One still says he was invited by Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics, famous for their one-hit wonder, Sweet Dreams, to join him for his private birthday party. One still declined because he believes in separating work and play. As you can imagine, all these long nights and lavish parties can lead to some pretty incredible stories. If you take up professional driving, maybe you could be like Jane Larson, who we mentioned earlier, and turn your stories into a play or even a book. Larson found that people were so enthralled by her tales of driving around royalty that maybe she could write her adventures down and make a little money in the process. Larson released her one-woman show, Driving the Saudis, to critical acclaim, and it has been performed from huge cities like Vienna, Austria, to New York City. It even won the acclaimed Best Solo Show Award in 2010 at the New York City Fringe Festival. Now, Driving the Saudis is a New York Times and international best-selling nonfiction book, and Larson is worth a cool $250,000. Not bad for working some pretty tough hours and getting some pretty amazing stories out of it, huh? One last thing we'll say about being a private driver that they may not teach you when you take your chauffeur's license test is that it can pay to be nice. Manny Anzalota has claimed to have driven some of the most wealthy men and women in the world. He says that his secret is to always give good eye contact and to always greet his clients with a smile and friendly conversation. One time, he drove none other than Michael Platt, a hedge fund manager worth $13 billion, and after chatting him up and making him laugh, Platt gave him a $75 tip on an $18 fare. Wow, not bad, Mr. Anzalota. Not bad. And that just about does it for our look into the life of a driver of the wealthiest in the world. But before we go, have you ever wondered what the pilot of a private jet makes in a year? Get this, these men and women are raking in a respectable $80,000 a year. Hey, if you've got a passion for flight, this ain't a bad way to go. We'll see you next time, right here on The Richest.